This is Abnormal Entertainment.
Ladies and gentlemen of the internet.
This is Stevie's house.
Mr. Stevie Wonder. Mr. Stevie Wonder. Mr. Stevie Wonder.
It's the year of Living Stevie.
Mr. Stevie Wonder. Mr. Stevie Wonder.
Hey everybody, welcome to my podcast. This is the Year of Living Stevie, the podcast all about music, creativity, and the amazing music of Stevie Wonder. I'm your host, Daryl Bean. It's been a while since I've had a chance to talk to you, and there's been a lot of stuff going on. It's actually, April has been a really crazy month for me. I was in a car accident at the beginning of the month. That was kind of exciting. I got rear-ended in a car accident on my way to pick up my daughter in Brighton, and I spent a couple weeks kind of convalescing from that. I had a concussion, and I'm still kind of getting better in a lot of ways, but I'm so grateful in a lot of ways. It's really hard to feel anything but gratitude after an event like that, where it could have gone so much worse. My car is totaled. I've got some issues personally that I have to kind of deal with, but I'm super glad to still be here and still able to do things such as this podcast for you. And I know a lot of you that listen to the show that are friends of mine have been super awesome and super supportive, and I appreciate all your love and your concern. The times that people have, brought me food, or that have checked up on me, or just done nice things for me. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart how much I appreciate that from everyone. That's really made, if anything, has helped me get better over the last couple weeks. That's been the biggie. But it's been weird, man. Like I haven't been able to do much. I don't know if any of you out there have ever had a concussion before. This is my first time in concussion land, and you can't do shit, man. Like I couldn't watch TV. I had to really severely limit my time on the computer. I couldn't use my phone all that much, so I spent a lot of time listening to music. But I also got to check out a super awesome podcast called Cocaine and Rhinestones, which you may have read about. There was an article, that's how I found out about it, was this article, I believe in The Guardian, that talked about it, that's all about the history of country music in the 20th century, so from 1900 to 1999, basically. And the host of the show, Tyler Coe, does this amazing job researching and telling these stories that came out of modern country music. And I have to say, he's kind of made a little bit of a convert. I don't know if it was the head trauma or the podcast, but I've been listening to a lot of country music in the last couple weeks. So well done. If you're looking for a really cool music podcast, other than mine, of course, you do really well to check out Cocaine and Rhinestones, even if you're not really a country fan, because it's not so much about the music as it is about the personalities that made it. I mean, there's a lot of discussion of music as well, and maybe you'll learn some things that'll give you a different, a different look at country music and a different appreciation for country music. I know it did that for me, but it's mostly really interesting stories about the people who make this music and some of the things that had gone on in their life. There's some really insane stories. It's a really, really great podcast. So if you're looking for something interesting to listen to, highly recommended. Cocaine and Rhinestones. They didn't pay me. If they wanted to, that would be totally cool. I'd be fine with that. So I just wanted to let you know about some stuff that's coming up. When I started this podcast, the title of it, of course, The Year of Living Stevie, and the podcast launched in early May 2017. So we are coming up on a year of Living Stevie. And my intention when I started the podcast was to go for a year and release a show every 2 weeks and talk to lots of different artists and give you lots of different music. And I succeeded on a lot of frontiers that way. I wish I would have been able to do it every 2 weeks and keep it more regular. But one of the things that I ran into as I sort of hit a wall in finding the types of artists that I wanted to talk to, and, all those sort of things. I had shows that I had planned, and they didn't pan out for one reason or another, and that's kind of a bummer. But I think that's how these shows kind of go. So I'm on the fence right now whether or not I want to wrap up the show at the end of this year and just say, well, a year of Living Stevie, we did a year, boom, there we go, and then move on to some other projects. Or if you're enjoying what we're doing so much that it's worth continuing, whether it's worth to keep going on with what we're doing. If there's enough interest, and you would be supremely bummed if the podcast came to an end in a couple of weeks, then please reach out. You can go to the Facebook page, Year of Living Stevie on Facebook, and post a note there, and follow us or friend us or whatever it is you do with groups on Facebook. Or you can send me an email at livingstevie@gmail.com, not at livingstevie, but livingstevie@gmail.com. And let me know if you'd like to continue listening to the show. Because if you do, I'm really having a lot of fun making this for you. But it's kind of hit a point where it's a lot of work, a lot more work than it was at the very beginning. And if there isn't the audience to really draw to do that, then it really, it's a lot. I'd kind of like to put the effort into some other projects, but I'd also like to keep making the show. So I'm kind of on the fence a little bit on what's going to happen. So today's show, we're talking to a band called Nadir, led by a guy named Nadir Amawali and his group of spectacular musicians. You'll hear a little bit more about them in just a second. And they've got some cool songs. They dug deep. We got some deep cuts that they're going to play for you, and it's a smoking episode, so I hope you're really going to enjoy it. I know I enjoyed making it a lot, as I do most of the episodes, or all of the episodes, actually, so far. But the next episode, I'm going to do a kind of a best of retrospective episode from the year with some of my favorite moments from interviews, some of my favorite songs, and put that out. And that's going to come out probably on May 6th. I don't know, either the 6th or the 8th. If you remember from last year, I think the podcast launched on May 8th, which is my birthday also. But that's going to be coming out in a couple weeks. And then something really special, and I think I've alluded to this in the last episode, and a lot of time passed between then and now, and I had to kind of tie down some things, and we've got it all settled down. We're doing a season wrap party, and also celebrating Stevie Wonder's birthday. And we're going to be doing that at El Club or El Club. I'm not 100% sure how the right way to pronounce that is. But El Club, which is a super awesome place in Detroit. It's on the Verner Parkway, 4114, if memory serves correctly. And it's a super awesome club. All kinds of great bands come through there and artists. It's a really, really nice place. And they were super gracious. They were actually the first people I contacted about hosting the show for us. And they immediately said yes. And they've been really, really cooperative and super helpful. And I'm really excited to do this there. So it's a season wrap Stevie's birthday party. It's going to be on May 12th. Stevie Wonder's birthday is on May 13th, but that's a Sunday. Who parties on Sundays? Well, some people party on Sundays, but I thought more people might want to party on Saturday. So it's Saturday, May 12th. Doors are at 10 p.m. They have an early show that night, which looks pretty cool. So if you wanted to come early and check out the early show, it's like an electronic show, which looks pretty neat. And then we're going to be after that. So doors are 10 o'clock. The music begins at 10:30. Now, what's super cool about this is some of the bands that have performed and been guests on the podcast are coming back, and they're playing for you. So you're going to hear the Social Bandits. We got Leaving Lifted coming back. We got Escaping Pavement. And then Drew Schultz is performing with this trio. And it's going to be super cool. And then also, we're between the bands and at the beginning and other spots during the night, we got a super cool DJ. His name's Alex Calhoun. And what makes this really, really exciting for me is that, like, he's not a DJ in the wedding DJ, hey, let's all play the electric slide kind of a sense. He spins real vinyl and kind of focuses on vintage soul, funk, and R&B. And as soon as I heard about this, my friend Joe Garofalo told me about him. and kind of connected us. And I was so excited. Like, this is the perfect thing for this show. So Alex Calhoun is going to be spinning vintage soul and funk on vinyl in between the bands and to start off the night. It's going to be a big party, and it all benefits a really cool organization called Real Life My Music. And Real Life My Music is an after-school arts program in Detroit that was started by a young mom. It's really cool. This lady named Lena Parnell, and she benefited a lot from after school programs growing up in Detroit. Went to Bowling Green for college, and then when she came back, I think to like visit or maybe moved back or something, she was explaining how she saw how these programs, because of funding cuts at the state level, had started to dwindle, and it really hurt her, and she wanted to make sure that the opportunities she had as a young woman growing up was available to other people as well. So she made this program herself. What a badass. Got the ball rolling, found the people, grew it, the whole thing. It's super great. It's a really, like, I was so excited when I discovered that program available in Detroit. And when I was trying to find somebody to benefit with the show, I couldn't think of anybody better or any program that fits what Stevie's all about and what the show's all about than Real Life My Music. So I'm really proud to be able to partner with Real Life My Music. And any of the proceeds from the show are going to benefit that. So if you want to come, we'd love to see you there. I'm hoping that it's a big packed party. It's a $5 suggested donation at the door. You want to give us more? Give us more. It's all going to Real Life My Music. The artists are performing for free. It's all good. So, but it's a $5 suggested donation. If you would like to donate ahead of time and buy kind of an advance ticket, you can do that by going to lclubdetroit.com, and there'll be a link in the show notes for that. And you can buy an advance ticket. If you buy in advance, you get a free Stevie is the Truth sticker, as long as I have Stevie stickers to hand out. If you want to pay at the door, you can do that as well. If you want to give us more than $5 online, I think you can do that. I'm not 100% sure, but come throw money, make it rain. It's all going to Real Life My Music, which, by the way, is not just a music program. It does all arts, visual arts, dance, theater, I think is a program they're looking to expand into. So it's all artistic endeavors, not just music. But it's really great. I would highly recommend going online and kind of just reading up about what they do and what the program's all about, because it's super cool. It's really, really inspiring, and I'm super excited to be partnering with them. So once again, that's the Stevie's birthday party / season wrap party at L Club, May 12th. Doors are at 10 p.m. Music starts at 10:30. I believe that goes till 2 in the morning-ish or so. There's going to be a big monster jam at the end with people from each band. It's going to rip. It's going to be pretty great. So I hope that we see you there. And then, of course, we also have the retrospective episode that'll be coming on May 8th or 6th. Somewhere in there. I'm not sure. Whenever it gets done and whenever the mood strikes me, I guess, to publish it, that's what's going to be there. But you get that to look forward to as well. And then if you would like more, if I should continue into a second year of Living Stevie, let me know, man. I would like to keep making the episodes. I think there's other artists to talk to. I think there's more to be learned and more to be heard. There's certainly more songs for people to cover with such a deep discography as Stevie has. So, let me know if you would like to hear more of that. You can hit me on Facebook. You can email me, come to the party, find me, grab me by the shoulders, shake me like a rag doll and go, "What do you mean you're stopping? Keep going." I don't know. But yeah, let me know. I would love to keep making the show for you. Today's guest can be described as equal parts band and creative collective with some of the most talented musicians, songwriters, and producers in the country. Their current single, Blue Lights, is up for a Detroit Music Award, and members of the band can be seen regularly collaborating on projects with world-class artists, such as in Don Was' annual Concert of Colors in the Detroit area. So please help me welcome the band Nadir and their leader, singer, guitarist, producer, songwriter, and all-around cool guy, Nadir Amawali. So here we are. It's the year of living Stevie, and I'm sitting here with... Now, here's the thing. You're going to have to help me because I don't know if I'm saying it right. Is it Nadir or Nadir?
It's Nadir Omawale.
Okay. All right.
But if you say Nadir, it's okay.
It's all right.
Still turn around.
Life's all right.
And the original Arabic is Nadir, and I'll still turn around. But
we may have to loop around and talk a little bit about the name and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
And the name of the band is Nadir. So
Nadir Omawale
band.
Yeah, the
Project.
Whole, the branding thing is a nightmare, but we won't go into. But
So why don't
for
we
now, yeah.
Why don't we let everybody know who we're talking to? So starting over here, not that you can see because we're on audio, but over here with the band leader, introduce yourself.
My name is Nadir Omawale.
Steve Caldwell.
Phil Whitfield, keyboards.
Lauren Johnson, drums.
Christopher Spooner, bass.
Fantastic. So how long has this iteration of the band been together?
Phil's been with us for a couple of gigs now, yeah.
But
it feels like he should have been here 5 years ago, you know.
Well, and when you hear the songs, you know, it's like it's
Yeah.
going to seem like, what? He just joined the band? Like he hasn't been here forever? Like, how did they live without him?
we actually tried to get Phil Whitfield all year last year, and he was always busy.
Busy guy.
That's which is great. I mean, the best players are always super busy, and that's why that's why
I
they're
try. Gotta pay the bills somehow. But I'm glad to be here with you guys now. You guys all sound great.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, and the rest of us we've been playing together for some years now, you know. The rest of us, so yeah.
When I'm trying to remember, the first time I saw your band was, it was probably 3-4 years ago when Shotgun Soul did their EP release at the Detroit pub, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that's like going back 3 or 4 years, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And how much longer before that had you guys been playing together?
Well, I don't think Lauren did that gig with us.
I think so. What year was that? What year was that? Do you
That
remember?
was, I don't remember.
2012,
I think the years all like blend together, you know. But Lauren's been with us for off and on for a couple of years. She went on tour for a little while, and and then came back, and but then we've also we always have Jason Bonnequist is just a fantastic drummer, and he plays with us quite a bit. We've always had just really good luck having a lot of great players. So, I guess Chris has been with us the longest on this particular iteration.
Yeah.
Finally getting my insurance and my
Nice.
Nadir. got my 120 days in, so
Your 401k.
I got my vacation time.
Right.
So, yep.
He's up to about a week and a half vacation now.
Yeah. Can't take Mondays off though.
No. So what are you gonna do?
It's all good.
So maybe because I'm always surprised when I talk to people, around Detroit and around Southeast Michigan, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be interviewing the band Nadir and all stuff, and they're like, who's that? And they don't like. I'm amazed, and maybe it would be kind of cool to let people know a little bit about what you do as a band, like what are some of the things that you do that if they liked what they heard on the show. Like, where would they go about finding you? Do you play a lot of shows? Do you record mostly? Do you do a lot of all that stuff? Or?
Well, over the last few years, we've been playing fewer shows. partially because I have 4-year-old twins, and once the kids came, it was like, oh man, we just could not get out and do more. And I've been doing a lot of producing, a lot of different acts as well. So we were playing a lot more a few years ago, and we will be playing a lot more now, coming up as the kids are 4 and and all that kind of thing. So they will be seeing us around quite a bit more, especially this spring and this summer and this fall and next spring and next summer and next fall and all that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And we got a couple of records out. We got some videos.
I was gonna say you've been working on some singles.
Working on singles.
Yeah.
Working on
Did some videos.
music videos.
We got to go to Nashville.
We played in Nashville.
Who
We've
do we
been-
open for in Cleveland?
We opened for Aaron Neville and
Neville.
Dr. John in Cleveland a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think we've forgotten about more than we've been doing.
I mean, there's been a lot of good gigs. Like before this iteration of the band, before Chris joined, I got to open for Van Hunt. I opened for Isaac Hayes, like on his last, not his last trip to Detroit, but the trip before his last trip to Detroit. I've opened for Bilal, Fertile Ground, just tons of cool people. Just been doing festivals, those kinds of things all around. Toured Europe a bit, toured Canada a bit, toured the U.S. a bit, and have just kind of settled in, and we're doing that thing from home and gearing it back up to head back out and smash people in the face some more.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why I was always surprised. I'd expected everybody to just be like, oh yeah, I know that, because I've always loved your band. And just been like, I remember the first time I heard you guys at that show, at the Shotgun Soul show, I'm like, oh my God, this band's amazing. Like, I need to play with this band. It was just one of those things where I'm like, wow, how has this happened? Because whoa. So it's really cool to have you guys on the show,
Well,
and
appreciate that.
and have you doing some songs here. I'm really, really excited about that. Yeah, maybe take us back a little bit, and tell us about your early career. And it could be anybody. We can just kind of like bounce around the room and talk a little bit about where you started playing music, what drew you to playing music, what part of playing music you like the best. Do you like producing? Do you like writing? Do you like performing?
I like loadout. Loadout is my favorite part of being a musician, because I get to carry my stuff after I've
what
just...
instrument you play.
Right.
That's definitely true.
Not a good thing for the drummer.
Harmonica players love loadout, don't they?
Yeah, I've been playing music for all my life, and went to college in Nashville. I grew up in East Tennessee.
Okay.
Went to college in Middle Tennessee State University, and played around Nashville for about a decade before moving to Detroit in '99. And so when I moved up here, I was still working on my very first solo record, so I was kind of going back and forth between here and Nashville, and then finally got that record done and started gigging around town, with a couple of really good bands, and just kind of been in and out here and there, and but I also do a lot of production, and I just kind of have fun, and we're not chasing the major label deals. We're not trying to get out and do that thing, whatever that thing is, right?
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of it is that for us, playing really depends on what else is going on with life. And these guys, Spooner and Steve, play with Miami. Lauren plays with Miami, who's an incredible artist on Rock Nation, and they're out roaming the world, and people are doing all these different things, and so life happens, and you just kind of you put it together as you can. So
what's interesting, what brought you to Detroit when you came to Detroit from Nashville?
Well, I was playing funk and rock in Nashville, and things were okay. You know, I had some good musicians, and we were doing some things, but there wasn't. You know, it's kind of tough, and it was tougher then than it is now. But it's a lot better now. But back then it was kind of tough to really get some traction. And then I happened to meet this woman that worked for Ford. And, you know, we just kind of, you know, we hit it off. And we had this, you know, these conversations as couples do. And she's like, you know, if for me to really advance in my career, I'm going to have to move to Detroit at some point. And I was like, I can play funk in Detroit.
Okay,
sure.
There we
Let's
go.
And so I came up here, and you know, it kind of worked out that way.
Climate's better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
You know,
As it's March and
you know,
the snow, but you know.
The snow, that's the tough part. The winters are the tough part. But otherwise, it has been, that was the right move to make.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Awesome. The thing you said in that past part too was interesting, that you were saying that it's better now than it was then, which is interesting because a lot of times when people talk about the music industry and the state of things, that we've been on this like downward slope, like things are worse now than they've ever been before. So it's interesting. Like how was it?
Well,
better?
I'm saying in Nashville has had such an influx of people from all over the country, like moving in, and so Nashville is really booming right now.
Gotcha.
And there are so many, you know, everybody in Nashville now is from California. You know, there's not as many people there. They still are struggling. They still really want to keep that Nashville country music city kind of thing going on, and they're trying really hard to do that. But I don't, you know, that tide is kind of shifting, and you know, I've always had really good connections with the rock scene and the hip hop scene in Nashville, and do a lot of work with hip hop artists and producers down there, and still do. But I think that now the live scene is kind of picking up to a place where people can do more other things, and there's a more receptive audience for that. So that's what I was meaning, is that Nashville specifically is a little bit more receptive.
It's not so country all the time.
Not so country all the time, and it wasn't necessarily country all the time then, but it was like to get steady gigs,
right?
To really, you know, to really get some things moving and doing your own thing. I mean, when you're doing original music anywhere, it can be difficult to gain traction, but there it was tougher for me to get in front of an audience and really.
So did you find that was easier when you came to Detroit?
It was easier in Detroit because
we probably had more clubs.
Well, there was more clubs, but I think, you know, I grew up listening to all that Detroit music. You know, I grew up, but one of the very first records that I remember is Parliament's, you know, Funkentelechy versus the Placebo Syndrome, the comic book with Sir Nose devoid of funk.
Yep.
You know, that is what I literally cut my teeth to. Literally, like taking vinyl records and no. That's not what happened to your record, my brother. That's not what happened to your record.
It might look that way.
So
I got to play with Sir Nose.
Oh, did you?
2006 at the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun gig.
Yeah. And I mean that so coming to Detroit, there was just a receptive audience of people that listened to funk music. And musicians that play funk music and grew up playing in those bands, and you know, and that kind of thing. So it was definitely the community embraced me.
Yeah.
Really, like right out of the box.
Well, I know I did. I remember the first time I saw you, I was like, wow, where'd this guy come from? And I want to play in his band.
So we have the same thing. We had the same kind of experience.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, because nobody else was really doing it like you were doing it. You know what I mean? Like Nadir brought a big missing kind of element, I think, that I saw anyway. You know, who knows? There's probably a lot of good funk bands out there, but You're always cool, man.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we're kind of bouncing around, and you were saying that Steve, you played with Sir Nose Devoid of Funk at the Super Bowl. How about other people in the band? Like, what are some maybe surprising or unique musical experiences that you've had playing?
Well,
and actually, I was just thinking, fans of the show, fans. I don't know how many fans I have per se, but people who listen to the show might be familiar with Phil because you played with Dennis Coffey.
Yeah, I play with him
episodes.
every Tuesday at Northern Lights, and I've been doing that for about 7 years now. So,
So literally playing with a funk legend every week.
playing with a funk legend, as I've been prone to tell him, he's kind of the reason for the Boom Chicka Wow Wow.
It's true. We
Because
talked
he
about
was,
that,
yeah,
actually.
he was the
and how-
first guy to do wah wah on an R&B record.
Yeah.
I told him, I don't think he got the joke, but when we did the interview, I told him that a lot of people my age are probably he's responsible for us being here, probably. And I don't know that he caught that, but
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah, Dennis has done a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't realize. Like, his discography is huge.
Yeah.
And his just gigs he's done is huge. And he's the other thing his first was the first Echoplex.
Oh, I didn't know that.
R&B record with In the Rain with the Dramatics. That's the
Oh.
first
Oh,
time,
that's Dennis?
That's
how about
Dennis
that?
on that. Well, see, and that's usually what happens with Dennis is, oh, that's Dennis on that? Oh, okay.
I want to go outside.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah.
he's probably forgotten more things than most of us have ever learned in a lot of ways. Because he was telling me the story about filling in. I think it was in the 90s. Did he live in L.A. in the 90s or something like that?
Yeah.
And he had to fill in last minute at some show.
Oh, it was with the Jacksons.
Yes, yeah. And he was like, "Oh yeah, charts," and I just I had to go in and I'd be ready, and it was like just this thing that popped out of the conversation, and I'm like, I wonder how many of those kind of things that would for me or for a lot of people, it would be like, that's the best thing I've ever done in my career. And he's like, oh yeah, I did that. That thing happened.
Yeah, it is funny when Dennis goes into story time because it's like, wait, what? You did, huh? What? It's like, yeah, that time I was playing with Barbra Streisand. It's like,
What?
In passing.
You know who likes those? Barbra Streisand. I'm like, what?
But that's kind of who I've played with. I did played with Dick Wagner. I don't know if you knew who he is.
Oh yeah.
For a couple years, but he was a lot of fun. It was cool playing with him, and he was another one of those ghost player guys that most people don't realize. Like, he's the guitar player on him and Steve Hunter, I think, are the guitar players on Train Kept a Rollin', Aerosmith. Because
Oh, I
that's
didn't know
not-
that.
That's not Joe Perry and those guys on that.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
So when I started playing with him, I would tease him and say, oh, hey, I've learned a bunch of your guitar solos, because I used to play that song in a band and learn that solo note for note.
And I have the Frost Music album that he was like back in
Oh,
the
yeah,
60s.
yeah.
Like, is that like his first big band or
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, I think he
professional
went
band?
from the Frost to Lou Reed,
Mhm.
and then to Alice Cooper, and then on to bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Writing hits.
Now, the first time I heard about Phil Whitfield, one of my neighbors, I used to have a studio over in Eastern Market, and called 1440 Collective Studio, and one of my neighbors, Jalo Jakate, used to play with Phil, and he put on this record. It was just phenomenal record. And I'm like, whoa, who is this guy? It's crazy.
Yeah, that was a fun gig with Jallo. He kicked my butt weekly because we used to play every Monday in Windsor. And
Yeah.
he kicked my butt weekly.
Good drummer.
Yeah, definitely. And so you play more in the U.S. now. Then you're from Phil is from Windsor.
Yeah, I live in Windsor.
Are you originally where are you originally?
I'm originally from Windsor,
Okay.
but I'm over here. I think this year I've done one gig in Windsor.
Wow.
I think last year I did a whopping 5 gigs in Windsor.
Is that a function of you're so busy in Detroit you don't have time there, or is it a function of there not being as many gigs? Maybe.
I think it's mostly I'm getting more calls over here. I think also it's being like not playing in Windsor a lot. It's kind of an out of sight, out of mind.
Sure.
Kind of thing, as the music industry tends to be from time to time. So, I'm sure if I pursued gigs in Windsor more, I could probably start getting more. But it's fun playing with these kind of guys.
Yeah, please
you
don't
do
that.
that often.
Oh, right. Oh, the John Hill gig, yeah.
Yeah. So I met Phil. God, was that the first? I mean, I've been watching Phil. He did Zappa, all kind of Zappa stuff. So that's kind of when I became a fan of him. And you did a lot of those gigs in Windsor, didn't you? Yeah. So I used to go over there and check Phil out. But him and I first playing together was with a cat named John Hill. He was a TV actor on ABC. He's done like what's that show? It started with Detroit 187, yeah. And Emily Rogers brought us all together. We had Rick Beeman on drums, and so we get together with him every now and then. We have this awesome album recorded that he never released.
That's a great record.
Because I think he's like scared of what's going to happen if he ever releases it. He's not going to be able to act anymore. Or he's going to have to do something about it. I don't know. It's a really good record. He's a super talented kid. And so we did that together. That was a lot of fun. And we play with him on and off, every now and then. Go record with him, write with him. But he's on Elementary, too. Elementary is the TV show he's been doing lately. But he's been on a bunch of HBO shows. He's just a really talented kid. And, oh, yeah, and the new Spike Lee movie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So, So that's the first time I got to play with Phil, and I've been a fan ever since.
And then Steve has been playing with everybody.
Yeah, I'm just kind of, I don't know why people call me.
I
don't know why.
love
There's
it.
so many
Like,
better
he
options.
plays everybody, and Steve's like, yeah, it's all right.
I know.
I mean, I love playing with everyone. It's cool. I'm very lucky. Because I'm not trained. Like all these cats, they all went to Wayne State. Like everyone's got these degrees and like huge music theory, and I just, I learned from my dad, self-taught.
But
like I had to work hard to like kind of catch up to everybody, and I still, it's like the jazz world kind of freaks me out a little bit, but.
Yeah.
But you do
I'm more of a songwriter. I'm kind of more of a George Harrison. I like to write and produce as well and record. It's a lot of fun.
And that's why you get the
dance.
phone call. Because you can do it all. Steve does it all.
Steve does
and he does it
everything.
very well.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
And a nice guy and a humble guy, too, which is that adds a
very
lot.
cool.
That's a really good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Steve, you play with Sean Blackman and
Yeah, doing the In Transit thing. We just did a 2-year run with a world music show, and we changed the country every month.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And we would fly people in from all over the country. And,
All over the world, yeah.
there was probably like 12 to 15 people in the band every month. And we had like a solid Detroit kind of core backing band. And then we would just bring in these virtuosic players mostly from in Detroit. And they're just hiding like in their cultures, right?
Right.
And we're trying to like give them a platform to show their virtuosity. I mean, these guys are incredible playing these crazy instruments that no one's ever seen before, and they're virtuosic. I mean, they're insanely good. And so that's been a real challenge, just totally changing the script we'll go from China to Cameroon to Spain, just all over the map. And Sean's like a really good friend, and so we've been doing that for 2 years, and that's been most of my time. But Chris and I have been doing Maini. We just got done recording a new record with her, which we're super excited about. Who else? Nadir, my favorite band. 1592, that's right. I got a reggae band I've had for about 10 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. That's kind of the one, you put so much in. You like the thing you were talking about, the thing, right? The band thing. Like all the other bands were hustling and social media, trying to get all this stuff going, and 1592 was just like the I don't give a shit band. And then it ends up being like the most successful one because you just don't care. But Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. We open for the English Beat all the time. Every time they come to town.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, they call us. So many people. The Scotalites we toured with for a little bit. You know, just really deep in the kind of ska scene, the old school ska scene. So that band's a lot of fun. And then Chris and I go way back. Like I think I met Chris. We were in high school. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just out of high school.
Yeah, something where like, and you know we were doing like malls.
We were touring malls.
Opening for like Debbie Gibson.
Nice.
Yeah, keeping it real.
Yeah, but Chris is one of my. He's like the secret of the town for bass players for me. Like, you know, he's always solid and been a good friend. And you know, I think because we played for so long, we just got this intuition thing. You know, I know where he's gonna go, and we've kind of like really gelled that way.
Funny, I'm not trying to keep it a secret. So,
well, you know, I mean,
but really, I'm not.
But you're not a secret, you know. I mean, anybody who sees you knows.
Yeah,
you know, they know.
Hopefully,
but it's
everybody's like that guy.
Seems like there's a million bass players. We have bass day in Detroit, and there's like 700 people show up with basses. You know, like there's a million bass players. Yeah, but I'm a huge fan of all these guys.
Yeah.
I first heard Chris Spooner with Paul Miles, and he had called Paul had called Chris to do Motown is still our town.
I was trying to think back to when we kind of first crossed paths. But
and I
guess
heard
that's
him just laying down this groove on this blues tune, and I was like, I'm gonna play with that guy. At some point,
That's funny.
we're gonna get, because you know it wasn't doing anything flashy, just pocket.
Yeah.
It's just pocket for days, you know. And I was like,
and don't let him fool you, man. He'll pop and slap you to death.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
He'll throw it out on you.
Like he's no joke, man.
But he holds it
Yeah, he's
down.
got that
like,
groove.
like nobody else, you know. Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
I just, you know, I'm kind of like Steve, just a neighborhood player, you know, and not self-taught, or I am self-taught, not trained at all to any degree. But, you know, just pick up things from people I'm hearing. Nadir's a great bass player. I've been around this guy for a while, so kind of, you know, listen to what he's doing, and I'm like, hey, all right, you know, you pick up things. But, yeah, I've known Steve for a long time. Our voices were much higher when we were hanging out.
That's right.
For the
Hair
first
was
time.
a lot longer too.
And hair much longer. Much longer.
And more
our hair.
Yeah, it's funny, man.
Yep.
It's always been a good ride. You know, we kind of say that after every gig. We're like,
Yeah.
got to ride again. You know, like got to do it again. You know?
We go places and play shows and hang out, and it's always a subtle conversation of, Steve, here we are again, you know. We started off at Macomb Mall. Now look at us, we're out here in L.A., you know. We were playing in front of Claire's.
Right.
And now look
Over
at
by
us.
the Cinnabon.
Yeah, exactly.
Merry-go-round.
Getting a signal to
Setting
turn
the alarms
down.
off and merry-go-round.
Yeah. I'm trying to pierce ears here. So, yeah, and this is a cool crew. I mean, it's so solid. Lauren is such a awesome drummer and such a cool personality. Phil has come in and just glued everything up tight and just making everything sound so pro.
Yeah.
We should have had Phil in this group a long time ago. We just needed to talk to his agent, I guess.
Yep.
You know, he's got an agent.
Wait for the opening. You know, the window.
Yeah,
to open.
yeah. I see why though. And you know, Nadir is just a good friend. It's good to see just a good dad, you know, like he is, and handle his business. I'm very inspired by that. And we have a good time together. We're always writing some good music, and it's to the point now where, you know, you write something, you go left, I'm right there with you. You go right, I'm right there with you. You know, that's how we are kind of musically, you know, feels that way. So it's been a cool ride, and a lot more to come. So
That's awesome.
So
And
that's
this kind of configuration plays with Stephanie Christian too. So it's
yeah.
Yeah.
it's like we're
Yep.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's how we met you, right?
Well, I think I met you on the Jessica Care More. I think you came in and did a session with Jessica.
That is how I met you.
You're right. You came in and you came in with Kenny Watson and
sure
played
did.
percussion on a cut.
Right.
Sure did.
And just killed it on percussion. And
That's right.
I remember that
and
percussion gig.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, somebody said, "Well, you should hear her on the kit." I was like, "What?" And she got on the kit and just smashed, just crazy, crazy.
Solid.
And then she left us.
But she's back.
Went on
Rock
tour,
stars
and,
do.
I'm back now. And
Who were you on tour with?
here to say. I wasn't on tour. I moved away for a
Oh,
little
I gotcha.
while.
Okay. Yeah.
I moved all the way out to Salt Lake City, all
Ah,
the way in Utah. So I moved out there with my cousin for a few years, and now I'm back, and we're reunited.
We tracked her down.
And it feels so good.
and it feels so good.
So you only toured China
in Africa.
in Africa, in the
Yeah.
U.S.
Yeah, you've been some places for sure.
So
I got a lot that I'm trying to do.
she's
but
she's
just a little
pretending
bit,
she's
you know.
pretending she didn't go on tour, but she's been on tour.
So there's a lot of intertwining going on.
Yeah.
You know,
As
which
it
super,
is.
That's what I love
Yeah.
about Detroit. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and that's
Super
one of
cool.
that is the thing about Detroit is that everybody's doing cool stuff, individually, and Steve writes, and Spooner's a great producer and writer, and and Phil's a great writer. You know what I'm saying? And everybody, Phil's a tremendous guitar player.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I
what
was
about
waiting
that?
for a venue to
Plays
get into
bass
that.
too?
Yeah.
you
The
know,
third bass player in the band.
Oh my god.
That bass day is here.
oh, we do.
Well,
we
you can
have
do
to-
so. You can
we
do
do have
big
to do
bottom.
Big Bottom, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Do Big Bottom by Spinal Tap.
It does. Whenever I'm with these guys, though, it always feels like I'm back with the family. The energy is just always right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And while I was gone, I missed you guys a lot. I
We
did.
missed you too.
Trust me, we missed you.
I
too.
met some cool people, but there's nothing like being with your family, being with these guys. And
Yeah.
I've grown a lot since I've been playing with you guys. They have pushed me to just be the best I can be, So thank you guys.
Thank you.
And I call Nadir the sensei.
Yeah.
So yeah, he gives me advice and all kinds of stuff, and he's just a great guy, awesome band leader, and I just like how nobody is a diva. Well, I guess I'm the only girl in the group, so maybe I shouldn't say diva. But there's right. Pause.
No, there's guy divas too. Believe me.
But there are no egos in this band. Nobody has to have the spotlight or nothing like that. Like, we all want to do it collectively as a group, and I don't know, the energy is just always good playing with these guys, and it's always a conversation. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and the time that I've spent with you guys, like when I was here last week for the rehearsal and then tonight, one of the things that really impressed me was that just sort of like how relaxed everybody is and how, kind and humble and it's pleasant. It's just really pleasant to be around.
Weird,
everybody.
isn't it?
It's
It's
great.
weird.
I mean, it's really great. I mean, I've been in a lot of bands where it's a lot of fun, but it's like it's so nice to just be around people that are cool and just be like, oh yeah, this is great, whatever, yeah. It's fine, and everybody's easy to work with each other, and no drama or anything.
That's why we haven't made it.
Right. The only diva that's the diva that's not here is Stephanie. So
Right.
Steph,
Steph is the
Steph
diva.
comes.
We let her.
Steph is the diva.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, I'm in D.C. this week. I played at the Kennedy Center.
No, whatever.
Whatever. She's doing it.
Who's she on tour with?
She's out touring with a guy named Taylor Mack,
Okay.
who is a drag queen and is and like a MacArthur Fellow, and is doing the Taylor Mack show. Is like American music from 1776 to the present.
Wait a minute, I know that show. Yeah, it's the really long one, right?
Yes,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like what? It's like 12 hours or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like 24 hours. It's like a 24-hour show. And
Holy
so
shit! Is she doing that with?
She's
him?
doing that.
Oh
show.
my god!
So she gets up and she's singing like 1776, and then she comes back and she does, the 1800s and the 60s, and it's every decade. It's crazy.
Yeah, that show's nuts. I was taking a look at that, and it's like, they're selling out and all. It's amazing. Like,
everywhere.
So when she comes back and, you guys do a gig and it's like a 3-hour gig and you're like, man, I'm so tired. She's going to be like, what? Shut up.
Right.
Like,
That's
fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't know. I sang for 24 hours straight. Well, being kind of a Stevie themed podcast, and one of the things that I was thinking of, obviously the band's awesome and all that, but the other thing that I was thinking about is how Stevie is really socially active, and there's a lot of social activism that Stevie's done over the years, and that's one of the things that I associate with you guys too, actually. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about that and some of the things that you're passionate about, and some of the things that as musicians and as a band and in your work that that you try to wrap into that a little bit. So
yeah. Well, I think that the social activism part just comes from the crazy stuff going on in the world, and not being able to keep my mouth shut sometimes.
Yep.
I think is part of that, and I think that I've gotten a rap for being a political artist sometimes, because I do do a couple of songs that speak my mind or whatever, and then we'll do crazy silly stuff too, but and just fun dancey stuff, but when writing, I feel like it's important to say what's on your mind and talk about what's happening, and especially with funk as my main influence musically. I think that it's no coincidence that funk and the Black Power movement and the Civil Rights movement all kind of came together around the same time. And that was Stevie's, I guess, that was his time when he really started developing, when he turns 21, and does Music of My Mind,
right.
and gets his contract right with Motown, and starts really being able to do and say what he wants to say, around the time that Marvin Gaye is allowed to do What's Going On, and now it's like, oh, we can sell records by saying what we want to say. Oh, okay. Berry Gordy's like, okay, well, let everybody say what you want to say, and so a lot of my favorite Motown stuff is from that era. The Temptations were, Papa was a Rolling Stone,
right.
and we just lost Dennis Edwards. Right when Dennis Edwards joins the band, they start really doing the Cloud Nine, with Dennis Coffey, and start really getting into the social activism and really again talking about what's going on, and that was a formative. That's the music that I kind of grew up listening to. Those were the records that my parents were listening to, that my brother was listening to at the time, and so it was just kind of a natural progression to do that kind of stuff, I think, for me. So some of my favorite Stevie tunes are those tunes. You Haven't Done Nothing, and it's just so many tunes that he does that talk about what's going on in the world. But Stevie really is. He's one of those writers that just says it all, and his catalog is so deep that there's probably a subject that he's sung about at some point, from Bob Dylan covers to whatever,
Sure, yeah.
I mean, he's done everything, and so it would be really difficult to find a subject that Stevie hasn't at least touched on a verse, somewhere, and. So I think that's important, but he also is he speaks his mind, and he says what is going on, and doesn't pull any punches.
And since we're kind of in a moment right now, politically, where you see movements like Black Lives Matter, and then the Me Too movement, and now the Never Again gun rights, where there's just a lot of energy in political activism. Do you feel, it could be you as an artist or as a band, do you feel like a certain, I don't know, an energy in what you're doing as well? Like, do you feel yourself being ramped into doing more, or is it pretty much the same as it's always been, and now it's just a little more on the surface, I guess? Or
that's a little weird for me, because I feel like there's pressure to write more political stuff, and I do have a couple of new political tunes that are coming up. You know, Chris and I wrote Blue Lights that we released as a single last year that talks about getting pulled over by the police. So there's some political stuff kind of coming up, but then I'm also like, I'm a new dad, and so I'm kind of happy.
Yeah.
and it's really weird, because I spent all of the 2000s just being pissed off.
Yeah.
And writing, just having this clenched for an entire decade of just being, and now it's like, oh, the kids are playing, right. and I'm in a much better place, right? Mm-hmm. So while all this madness is going on, I don't know. I mean, it's there.
Sure.
It's there, but I feel a little more balanced, and I feel like you have to kind of stay that way.
There's certainly no lack of stuff to write about.
Well, that's true. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff going on, but I don't feel like I just don't want to be pissed off.
No, I get that, and especially you saying that you spent a long time being really, really angry and just really pissed off, and now you have a place where there's like a center. You know what I mean? Like there's just a place where you can find like, and you can let that go. It's really, there's as much as there might be a call to be an activist, at the same time, there's also the sense of like, I just want to chill out with my kids for a little bit too, man.
Yeah, and I mean those tunes are coming. I mean, they're there.
Sure.
There's a couple of tunes that these guys haven't heard yet too that are in that that are in that vein.
Mm-hmm.
And
Blue Lights
pretty
is great.
Blue Lights
great
is
tune,
one of those that's like
but it's
really,
it's kind of like a happy upset song though. Like the music's kind of like, I don't know. I know you're like speaking to like experience and stuff like that, but but the music is still. I felt like your older stuff was like, even the music was so much darker. It was heavier,
right,
thicker. This has kind of lightened it up a little bit, but it's.
Well, that's that that Chris Spooner bass groove. Man,
oh man,
was just
it's
just like this. It's like, oh man, this is cool. But then,
it's got a party feel. Yeah,
we prefer the angry Nadir.
It's almost like
we like the
angry,
like pissed off.
To ruin your party.
That's exactly what the song is about. Yeah. It's exactly like I'm on my way to a party and I get pulled over by the police.
Right.
And it ruins the party, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of it. And that was I think when we came up with that, it was that was that sense of what's going on, and we still we want to party, we want to get it rocking. So there's new stuff coming along, and some of that stuff is going to be more politically oriented. We recorded a track called "Good Woman Cry," which is one of my older tunes that's about domestic violence. And so that stuff is coming, but at the same time, it's just necessary to just have fun and be balanced, and then even in the songs that we picked tonight for the Stevie podcast, it's like, so you can pick all of this huge catalog,
right?
What are the tunes that you want to do of Stevie Wonder, and I've always loved That Girl. I've just always loved that tune, and it's not political. It's especially not one that a lot of people do. And now that we learned it, we know why.
Yeah,
people stay away from that song.
That's the thing about Stevie. It sounds so great, and it feels so smooth when he does it. But then when you try to get in there, it's like, oh, this is really way more difficult than I thought.
He makes it seem so easy.
I need to study this a little. I need to put in some time with this recording.
Yeah. So everybody does superstition, and I think it was you that said that everybody does superstition wrong. You know, but everybody does superstition because that's the one you can do, and there's so many others, just so many songs that and Let's Get Serious, that he wrote for Jermaine Jackson. It was the biggest soul music hit of 1980, and beat out Rock With You by his brother Michael.
Didn't know that.
It did.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think you said last week that made for some tough Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
After that.
Couldn't have done it without Stevie, huh?
Well, you can do the Quincy. So,
again, with Stevie, you could pick just about anything, and you can't go wrong. But we wanted to do some things that were a little bit different, that aren't necessarily done by a lot of people. you know, for sure. So and what about that girl? Like, what about those changes, man? Those are
Well, that's actually it's a very nice like sort of segue into talking about the song. So let's talk about that girl and some of the challenges. I mean, the thing that I don't remember who said it, but somebody said at the rehearsal last week that it shouldn't work on paper. Like when you look at it on paper, it doesn't work. But was that Phil? Yeah. That said it when you look at it, it shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah, there's nothing about that song that should work, but it does.
Yeah,
it's just Stevie knows what he's doing. Obviously, he's got his ear. You know, as Dennis says, he hears everything. Yeah. But yeah, there's nothing about that song that should work.
Yeah.
But it does.
I think that that song really epitomizes a principle that I think is very important as a composer and as a producer and arranger, is that the bass is the quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. And so the root of the bass, everything else, he's got these just crazy, stupid, what were you saying, half diminished G sus.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of crazy chords this like pedal tone bass line.
Right. Mm. So there's a pedal tone bass line that just lays it down, and the bass is very logical and very funky. So there's just this solid groove, and then he can lay all of these intricate textures on top of it and move into all of these different places. And then of course with Stevie, you know, he'll throw in that weird change to the bridge, you know, that you just weren't expecting, and you know, little keyboard flourishes here and there and stuff, you know, and
so many layers.
Yeah, exactly.
So many layers.
And Let's Get Serious is similar too. You know, he's got mixed meter, you know, time off time signature kind of stuff going on, and just slight changes just to make it a little more interesting for him to play, right? Run those horn lines and you know, all that kind of stuff. Just like I think that's cool. It's as a musician, it's always fun to play those challenging parts. And that's one of the things we like to do with this band is that we'll play stuff and it's deceptively fun, but there's going to be those little things in there that are just like, okay, I'm going to actually have to sit here and learn this run, you know, for a little while before we actually get out to do it. And that's one of those. But then you've got to be able to hold the groove down and keep the party moving. And that's one of the things that I think Stevie teaches us, you know, really. It's an essential part of what he brings is that he can get so dense and so complex, but then it's still accessible for so many people.
Well, he's a master at counterpuntal writing. Like everything works within itself. Like Let's Get Serious has the two guitar parts that work with each other rather than to be one whole rather than to be two guitar parts.
Right.
Like Superstition has that same thing. You know, there's two main clav parts. I mean, there's 6 clavs on that song, but there's 2 main clav parts, and they all work together. And then when you listen to the clav parts when the horns come in, it all works counterpuntally.
Right.
Which is part of, like, I always play the clav part the way he recorded it because it's so much fun to play with the horn, like against the horns, which nobody ever does. Everybody cops the horn line. And it's like, you're missing half the fun of the tune if you're the keyboard player. But like tunes like that, you know, like Living for the City has, you know, just impeccable synth writing on it. You know.
And he plays the drums on that.
And he plays the drums on that. He plays the drums on so many songs.
Yeah.
And he's got such a distinctive drum style.
There's been 2 different episodes where we've nerded out about Stevie's drumming and why it is the way it is, and like the hi-hat thing is like that's kind of both Social Bandits and Drew Schultz both were talking about the hi-hat. That's kind of like his signature. So you really hear his drum parts when you hear the hi, like, oh yeah, that's Stevie. You know,
we were talking about the hi-hat last week. Yeah.
If you don't get the hi-hat, if you don't get that groove on the hi-hat part within itself has its own groove. You know what I mean? And then you kind of, again, layer in everything else. You know
Yep.
what I mean? But that hi-hat is going to be the drive
Yeah.
with his tunes. Yeah.
Drew had said something I didn't realize this until he mentioned it, and then I went back and listened. I'm like, oh yeah, totally. That the independence, like he doesn't have the independence between his bass drum foot and his hi-hat.
He matches
playing.
up the right, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so a lot of drummers is like, if you hear just a regular drummer, like they're gonna separate the hi hat and the bass drum. But when Stevie plays, the hi hat and the bass drum do the same thing most of the time, which is really unusual, and that's why his drum parts sound the way that they do.
That's why they have that swing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's one of the, if I'm not mistaken, he played the drums on Superstition, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's one of the like one of the first gigs that I had in Detroit. I played with this drummer that was just playing Superstition raw, and I was about to lose my mind. I wanted to just take my bass and just throw it at the guy. It's like, how do you miss this? It's just, you just gotta hold it. And this is before I met all the amazing drummers in Detroit, right? And I'm like, there's no good drummers up here, man. What's going on? I keep playing with these sad sack drummers, and this guy was just, oh man, and I just wanted, but you gotta hit that groove. It's just got, it's gotta
be right.
It's essential to making that song work, and so much of it is that swing that he gets. Which yes, it's just a four on the floor, but or just boom chick, but he's just got
it's
that
the way
swing.
he plays it. It's
Yeah.
the swing, exactly. Yeah.
That makes everything work.
Yep.
Well, Stevie's drum parts are also very musical. Like you can tell he's not playing the drum part; he's putting the drums on the song. And that really dictates.
They connect to the melody and what
Yeah, because like you listen to him on like Superstition, for example, and then you listen to how he plays like I Wish, or like what's that Spinners tune that he plays on? Dennis played on it. I'm drawing a blank, but there's like one of the Spinners tunes, one of their big hits. He played on, and you can totally hear it because he's playing the song.
Yeah, it's not so much like a pattern. It's like there's all this change and movement in what he's playing as a drummer. Yeah, absolutely.
But the reason that I've always, I think one of the reasons that I've always loved That Girl and Let's Get Serious as well is that bass line. And Stevie is just such, aside from having, Nate Watts when he feels like calling Nate Watts, to come in and just lay down incredible bass guitar. Stevie's bass is just always amazing. Just that left hand, just funky bass lines that are just unreal.
His fills, his runs too.
Yep.
And they're tasty, and they feel like a bass player. Even though they're, most of the time they're synth. They feel like a bass player would play it. It has that, it has that sensibility.
He's got the same swing his drums got.
Yep.
When he's playing drums, his bass has that same.
That's kind of like Boogie on Reggae Woman.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the bass line in that's all synth
just
bass,
insane.
and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Cool. So why don't we hear you guys do That Girl? Cut and put the song in, and then come back and kind of talk about the other tune. So
Cool.
All right. So song. All right. So the other song that you chose to do is, as you were talking about a little earlier, Jermaine Jackson's "Let's Get Serious," which was written and produced by Stevie. So tell us a little bit about that and why you chose that song.
Well, again, that's one of those songs that it was just a great song from my childhood that nobody really does anymore. I think probably people probably had to do it back then, but nobody really does it now. But
Shame
but
on it.
it's a shame. It's a great tune. It's a great tune and just so much fun and again, Jermaine, we were talking about because we were talking about the songs that Stevie wrote for other people and the tunes that we didn't know that he wrote and those kinds of things, and that was one that I just didn't know was a Stevie song. And then when you listen to it, it's like, oh yeah, it's got to be a Stevie song. Serirous. It's got to be Stevie. That's the way he, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's Stevie.
Yep.
No question about it. And I just see him in the studio telling Jermaine, sing these notes.
Yeah. Nothing else.
Don't sing it. Sing it exactly the way I sang the demo, and you will have a hit.
Yeah.
Don't do anything else.
But I wanted to. No,
don't do that.
Another hit.
And then I went back and I looked, and I'm like, Jermaine is playing bass and singing that stuff, like laying it live on Arsenio. Like playing the. It's like he's concentrating. He's focused. You can tell. He's like
dancing.
He's not. He's not doing Michael.
There's no moonwalking.
He's standing there and he's laying it in, but he's he's holding it together.
Wow.
Great coordination,
Definitely.
And great bass playing. But yeah, that's just one of those songs that's just a fun song that nobody ever plays, and I knew we would play it well. So.
And you did. I'm trying to think of something that popped into my head about that song, but it kind of, as it happens sometimes when I don't write down questions, as I want.
On that tune, man.
Yeah, thank you for
absolutely
for rocking with us on that too.
My dreams come true. I got to play with the band. Well, I appreciate that. That was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun. Is that a song you think you'd pick up and put in your set?
Maybe the
sounds good.
It's pretty cool. We got to get the horns are always a thing, which we always talk about, adding horns or whatever, but then Phil came in and just covered Blue Lights like like the Will Session, the Will Sessions horns played on that tune when we recorded it, and Phil just came in and played the arrangement, and oh well,
all right then,
okay. So Phil is playing both the amp fiddler parts, and he's playing the Will Sessions parts.
Joys of being a keyboard player.
Drinking a coffee.
And drinking coffee at the same time. And drinking a Tim Hortons.
Imported Tim Hortons from Canada.
So I mean, it's conceivable that one may make it to the set. I think that the tough part of that is, and the tough part for me, for Stevie tunes in general, is that Stevie sings so high,
right?
And I'm a baritone, and a more almost bass baritone. I sing low, So a lot of those songs are like right at the breaking point for me. So you have to change the key, and that kind of takes the fun out of it sometimes, depending on what it is. So we'll see. We'll see. But I think aside from that, I don't. That's a pretty cool tune.
It's
definitely
pretty sweet.
Is worth having a conversation.
Yeah. Do you find audiences respond to that, like when you drop some song that's kind of a deep cut into a show? That's something they like, or that like they prefer to hear stuff that's more like standard rep or whatever?
Well, I mean, we play mostly originals, so I think that most of the time the audience just doesn't know what they're hearing.
Yeah.
And so when we do throw in a cover, it's usually something that is familiar, but that we freaked and turned into our own. So like Life in the Fast Lane, we do, as James Brown would play it.
Oh my God, I gotta hear that.
Yeah, and then we'll play a hard rock version of Teddy Pendergrass's Love TKO. And that kind of thing, where we'll just take it and we'll put a spin on it.
Sure, yeah.
And so, that girl, I think, just sounds like we would play it, and nobody plays that song. So people will. Some people will recognize it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it goes. Is like when you play the deep cuts, some people recognize them, some people don't, and they just think it's your tune.
Sure.
We opened with a funkadelic tune when we played the Hamtramck Music Festival a couple of weeks ago, and one person came up to me, I love the funkadelic, but most people just don't don't necessarily know that cut.
Sure.
You know, so we do a little of both, but the main thing is that we just want to have a fun show and have a party.
Right on. And you have some stuff, you can't talk about it yet, but you do have some shows coming up.
We have some stuff coming up. You know, we will be playing a free show at the Ferndale Public Library on July 17th at 7. So that'll be cool.
That sounds pretty dope.
And we've got some festival things coming up. A couple of really cool festival things coming up that I can't say anything about. Some tentative stuff.
Sure.
Tiny Desk, yes. Tiny Desk video is coming up. Doing some original stuff on that.
Is that going to be on your website if people want to see your Tiny Desk
It
video?
is going to be on the website. It will be on the YouTube channel as well. It'll be on Facebook.
And we'll of course have links for those things.
Absolutely.
So cool. Well, let's check out Let's Get Serious.
All right. Say, let's get serious. Say it. No. Say, let's get serious. Huh? Pick you up? All right.
Daddy Boo Boo.
All right. You guys are banished.
No.
Come on, what you gonna say? Say something. What you got? What you got?
Hi.
Close my eyes and I see your face at night.
kind of wrap it up here at the end.
Check out the sax player.
Or don't. I don't know. All right, so we're back and we're kind of wrapping things up. And one of the things that I've tried to do, because the reason why the podcast came to be is that in 2016 we lost David Bowie, right? And then we lost Prince, I think, that same year too, right? It was 2016 when he passed away, and it became really important to me to take these people who are icons and like have some way of saying thank you to them. Like, I was like, man, I never got to tell David Bowie what he meant to me. Not that it would make a big difference, like he hasn't heard that 100 billion times, but still. Or Prince, for that matter, like the effect that Prince had on me. So I thought about Stevie Wonder and how Stevie was this, just all the way back to when I was a little kid. Like, my first memory is Stevie Wonder. Wow. Actually, it was hearing Sir Duke in my mom's car when I was like 3. Because it was summer. I know I've told this story a billion times on the podcast, but it's kind of a good one, where I sat down in the car and I had the little shorty shorts that kids in the 70s wore, and the seat burnt my legs, and it was like that, like, smack into consciousness or something like that, and like Sir Duke's on the radio, and I was like, that guy sounds fun. I like, it was like this, how when you're a little kid, your economy of people is, oh, they're nice, or, oh, they're mean, and it's like, oh, he sounds really nice, and then something kind of stuck with that. So I was always kind of attracted whenever I heard Stevie on the radio. I'm like, oh, it's Stevie Wonder. And then
you end up playing horns, which was like,
Right. So maybe there's a thing there. I don't know. Maybe there could be a Sir Duke thing that I ended up playing saxophone for the stupidest reason ever, because like my friend played it and I was like, okay, I guess I'll play too. And it just happened to kind of like, I figured it out, and it was kind of like recorder, and I'm like, okay, well, this makes sense, right? And here I am 30 some years later still playing saxophone. But so, one of the things that I'm hoping is that at some point that Stevie gets to hear, at very least, the ends of the episodes, because at the end of the episode, if you had something you wanted to say to Stevie, or if something like some message that if Stevie were listening, what would you want him? What would you want to say to him, basically? Which is a biggie, I know, but
yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh,
you got to lead with that.
Well. So I met Stevie a year ago at the NAMM show. And so I was there with a client of mine, Icon Pro Audio, and Stevie actually plays a couple of our keyboards, and so he was there trying out the keyboard. And so as I'm trying to sell Stevie Wonder a keyboard, because that's what I'm supposed to do, I just told him, hey, I just appreciate what you do. I congratulated him on his street, and hey, I'm from Detroit. You got a street. Congratulations. He's, oh yeah, Detroit. Yeah, And so I'm such a fanboy. It's terrible. I'm bad at that stuff. So I've learned to just kind of just be cool and just say all you can say to Stevie is just thanks. I mean, what else? What else can you say?
That's the first thing that came to my
mind.
Yeah,
I mean, how can you?
Thanks for being you.
Yeah, thanks for just giving so much of yourself,
and being fearless.
Yeah, that's something that like nobody has said that before, but that's very true when you think about the things that he did, and he was so young. I mean, like when I was 21, like what was I doing? I was playing in a bar band, and like.
I mean, at 12.
Yeah.
And being blind.
I was just about to say that. The fact that he was blind.
Yeah.
That never stopped him. That was never a handicap for him, really, to me. It never crippled him in any kind of way.
Yeah. He just came out and smashed it.
He's amazing.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
I love that guy.
Has anybody played Fingertips?
No, nobody's played Fingertips. That might be kind of fun at some point to have somebody do that. There's so many songs, though, like. And there was a podcast that ended up not coming together, but I had an artist that I really wanted to do. Oh gosh, what was the song from Intervisions? It's a ballad. I'm trying to think of the tune. Shoot, I can't remember it, but that was like I remember when I first came up with the idea of the podcast, that was like the first time like I really want to hear this person sing that song. That's like I'm doing this whole thing just for that, which then didn't end up happening. But it's okay because like I've had all these great conversations with other artists and had all these great songs, all these experiences of people developing songs and doing them and getting to hang out and see them do what they do, and it's really, really amazing. But yeah, there's so many tunes I would love to hear. Like I could probably keep doing this for like years and years and years and years just to just to hear them all. You know?
Probably could.
Yeah. So what would you say to Stevie Wonder?
Well, that is a very hard thing to come up with. I think the biggest thing for Stevie, for me, aside from Stevie being Stevie, is the biggest thing I got from him is just his sense of orchestration. Like the way he puts parts together and even like sonically puts things together is just, everybody owes him a lunch, basically.
Yeah.
Because like Herbie Hancock does the same thing when he does it. It's like he's just a huge influence on so many people. So like when I'm producing or if I'm doing like synth parts for a session or something like that, I'm always thinking in terms of, what would Stevie do? And and I approach it like that, and sometimes it works. It's never quite as good as what Stevie would do because, well, I'm not Stevie.
Right.
But, that's the biggest thing I've gotten from Stevie is just his sense of sonic orchestration. Yeah.
Sweet.
Anybody else?
I'm just very appreciative of Stevie's talent. His bass lines are I study them a lot, and his fills, man, all the time. I mean, they're just hands down the coolest stuff just to hear and just to try to cop,
And you play a lot of the synth bass on
I
the
do.
bass guitar.
And I try to translate a lot of what he's doing, him purposely, and apply that to your stuff and just what I'm hearing, his fills and feeling, and just his approach is really cool. It's really tasteful. So, and of course, I'm very thankful. No wedding would be complete without My Eyes Don't Cry. I mean, come on. Come on, man. Come on. Hear someone do that one. And hustle.
Yeah.
But, Stevie's just a inspiration in music, life, just train of thought and approach. He covers a lot. And it's just, he's got a song that touches everybody, It's, it's hard to find an artist like that these days, that's for sure.
Definitely true. Do you have a favorite fill, like a favorite bass fill?
Probably something off of Boogie on Reggae Woman.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just kind of,
The
par
one-
for the course.
The one that he played on That Girl.
What's that?
In the solo. The one that he played on the solo of That Girl.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
The one that Chris played.
Did I play?
Solo, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that one. It's like
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, that all comes from him. I mean, just and there's extra appreciation just because we're in the same town. We come from the same dirt, so that's kind of cool too.
Pretty sweet. Pretty good. How about you, Steve? You got something?
Yeah, just thankful for all the great music. My mom, my parents got divorced when we were younger, but my mom had all the 45s, like the singles. And it wasn't like the deep cuts, right? It was always just like the typical tunes. And we didn't have that many of them. My dad was more of a Beatles tune, Beatles guy. And, my uncles were all into Ozzy and rock music and stuff. So it just was a nice break from all that. And, man, the chord progressions, just learning, it's only recent, for me that I've actually sat down, you think of Stevie Wonder, you don't really think of guitar, right?
Yeah.
And so it's, to really dissect those songs and learn all of those progressions and just see how they work. And it's amazing how that guy's mind works. And it's to what Phil said, just the production value, the way he can layer all of that stuff and it just works and it locks and, nothing's really stepping on each other. And, I would just thank him for just all the lessons to all kinds of musicians. I mean, it's just the inspiration goes on forever. I think with him, like
Yeah.
it's gotta be one of the biggest, right? Like I mean, he's probably one of the biggest inspirations ever in the history of anything.
And in so many levels. I mean,
Right.
like, you know, as a saxophone player, like his harmonica solos.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like,
Right.
if I could sound like that,
Right.
then
You
I'm
know?
doing all right.
Right.
You know? Or
Right.
like if I'm writing songs or you know, whatever, like
I mean, as a
listening to the chord
vocalist,
progressions
as
and
a-
vocals. And like,
Yeah.
there's just, like, he's taken the bar in
Right.
every possible category and just kind of went and
Yes.
jacked it up to the ceiling.
And how many people he inspired to like re-record his songs, like the Chili Peppers, you know, or like just all these cool rock bands that redid his stuff. And yeah, it's just it's such a powerful thing that he has, you know. That
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's maybe, you know, it's that strong with him because he doesn't have his sight and it's just more focused on his ears, but it's like supercharged, man. It's like nothing like we've ever heard from anyone.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I would just I'd thank him for the lessons, you know, all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Throwing down the gauntlet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I really had a great time, you know. And oh yeah, and we forgot somebody, so you just kind of hiding out.
Come on,
I
Laura.
She
said my
said,
little
yeah,
bit.
she
Said your
said,
piece?
she said
Okay.
he was fearless. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, the
We
Fearless.
started
That's
with
right.
her.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's
This
that?
has been going on so long. I didn't.
So yeah, I just thank you very much for everything. It's been a real blast, and looking forward to having everybody here. You know, you play and talk, and it's just been a real honor and a real pleasure to spend time with you and
Thank you.
and be around you. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.
yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it putting it all together and
All I did was
Thanks.
show up, and you did you did most of the setup. What are you talking about?
Thanks,
supposed to tell anybody that.
thanks to Steve for engineering and for
Somebody's gotta do it.
the Next Wave Media Lab, which he doesn't want the publicity, but this is a fantastic place. And
Thanks, man.
It's
Thanks
incredible.
thanks
for
for
all of
allowing
us.
us
It's
to
for all of
come
us.
and hang out. And
Yeah.
you know,
Steve does it all again.
yep.
That's
Gear
why
tight.
Steve always gets the call.
That's another show. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that.
Call him, Steve.
I love you all too.
867-5309. Call him.
All right, well that's gonna do it. Thank you guys.
Cool. Thank you, man.
you.
Thank you. It's a wrap.
All right, well, that'll do it. Thank you so much to Nadir Amwali and his bandmates, Steve, Chris, Lauren, Phil. Thank you so much for a great chat and even better songs. Also for giving me the privilege and pleasure of sitting in and playing along with you. That was a ton of fun. Don't forget, May 12th, the Stevie Wonder birthday party / season wrap party at L Club. 4114 Verner Highway in Detroit. You can find out some more by going online at lclubdetroit.com or check the show notes. I'll have links there. It's $5 suggested donation, or give more if you want. Heck, if you want to pay $20, we'll take it. Holy cow. Remember, the money goes to Real Life My Music, a spectacularly cool after-school arts program in Detroit, and you'll get a chance to hear the Social Bandits. You'll hear Leaving Lifted, Escaping Pavement, the Drew Schultz Trio, DJ Alex Calhoun. You'll dance your ass off. It'll be a lot of fun. So please come. I would love to see you at that. And then we have our retrospective episode coming up in a couple weeks. And let me know, should there be a year 2 of the Year of Living Stevie? Are we doing a second season? What's happening? I don't know. You should tell me. All right. So I hope you have a good day. Stevie is and always will be the truth. See you later,
Mr.
folks.
Stevie Wonder. Mr. Stevie Wonder. Mr. Stevie Wonder.
Head to abnormalentertainment.com for all of our podcasts and blogs. Go to cinemaheadcheese.com for our movie reviews and news. Don't forget our YouTube channels, Abnormal Podcast and Cinema Head Cheese. Get us on Twitter @AbnormalPodcast, and find all of our shows and Abnormal Entertainment on Facebook.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.